Hello, my name is Steve Mace from Solwise, and what I'd like to do today is give a quick presentation configuration video for one of the new VAP products that we just started doing recently. VAP means Virtual Access Point, and what it is an exciting new range of access points which join together, and multiple of the units will join together and give the impression as if they are one single Wi-Fi access point. So the clients will see all the access points, all the separate nodes, as one single Wi-Fi interface. Now, the advantages of this, well, the first advantage is it gives a pretty much seamless roaming. I won't go as far as say it's 100% seamless, because the client is still a bit of an obstinate pig when it comes to transferring from node to node. But what it does seem to do is it does seem to dramatically improve the speed and transparency which the clients actually roam from or move from access point to access point. Now, in order for that to work, all the access points have to be individually networked back to the main network, and that individual network can be back obviously via a network cable through the back of them, running back to switches, or if it's an outdoor service, what you could even have to do is have a separate backbone, a separate Wi-Fi backbone, which is actually carrying the backbone traffic from each of the actual nodes. So you might, for example, have a 5 gig backbone network, and off each 5 gig device, you've actually got a VAP unit running, which is giving the local 2.4 gig coverage. So the VAP unit is then using the 5 gig network as a backbone network for them to talk with each other. So one advantage, as I say, is it gives the impression of a complete, all-encompassing access point Wi-Fi network. The other advantage it gives is they are centrally managed. So what actually happens is, in your collection of VAP nodes, one of them is normally called an access controller, and what the access controller does is allows you a gateway to configure en masse all of the other nodes. So if you change the Wi-Fi settings on the access controller, they're automatically mirrored on all of the surrounding nodes, which obviously greatly simplifies administration of the whole network en masse. Each controlling unit can actually control up to 50 thin access points. Thin access point is the actual slave one, so to speak. The main access point, the controlling one, I say, is the access controller. Now what you can do is, this is going to be the first of a family of these devices, and all the family of devices can all be controlled and connected together. So you can have one access controller which is controlling units which are used outdoors and indoors, all merging together to give a single network. Now, obviously the applications for this product are quite exciting. Apart from obviously outdoor encompassing networks, it could also be used indoors, in schools, colleges, business workplaces, anywhere where you actually want to give the advantages of a single network to the clients, and also improved local control. The big thing that we're thinking about applying it for, of course, is leaky feeder cable. So for leaky feeder cable, you can have several runs of leaky feeder cable completely covering a place, and each length of leaky feeder cable can directly connect to one of these VAP units. You can actually literally screw the VAP unit directly onto the end of the cable using the great big end plug on the top of the VAP unit. The VAP units themselves, they support passive PoE using only 15 volts PoE, I'm afraid, which is good for probably maybe 10 to 20 meters, but I wouldn't like to do a 100 meter network cable run with only 15 volt PoE, but it seems to work. The VAP outdoor unit, the one we're looking at here, as you can see, it's a standard outdoor CPE type plastic housing. We've got an end plug on the top, which is good, so we can actually directly connect antennas directly to the top of the device. In addition, it also has a small low gain directional panel actually built into the front of it. It's not a high gain directional panel, so that does mean the advantage is obviously it gives a nice wide beam of signal. I believe it's only about 10 dB, but not huge. And through the software of the device, you actually tell it whether you want to use the indoor or the outdoor antenna. message coming up there. On the back, it's got the standard plastic moulding for a pole mount fitting. At the back, you've also got a protective flap you can take off, and under the protective flap, you've got the cable ear, which obviously is for the PoE and also for the actual data. Actually, you can see with the flap removed. On the side, you have the standard nondescript indicators, so you've got power, network, and 3 rather crude indicators for signal strength. But obviously, that only applies if it's actually a client. In an access point mode, obviously the signal strengths are immaterial, and there's another view of the actual connector on the top. So let's go through the setup of this device. What I'm going to do now is just quickly show how very, very easy it is to set up a network of these devices in a thin AP and thin AP plus access controller configuration. I'll only use 3 devices here, but it'll give you an idea how incredibly easy it is to set these devices up. So what we're going to do is I've got my first device actually connected to the network here on its default address of 192.168.1.1. Press enter. Default username and password is admin and password. Admin password. And we're straight into the unit. And if I go to basic settings, you can see that default settings, that's the default configuration, is a thin AP. Device name, you can change that to if you want, a maximum of 15 characters. But as you can see, there's limited amount of configuration you can do on the thin AP. The thin AP are the slave APs. So there's not a lot you can do from this one. As I say, most of the configuration of the device is all done from the main access controller unit. You can set the Ethernet data rate, blah blah blah. Now this is interesting. You can actually tell it how it's going to communicate or control or connect with the access controller unit. Now the default is obviously the LAN, but what it will actually do is talk to an access controller out there on the internet. So you basically just give it the address of the access controller out there on the internet, and it will actually communicate with that. So you can have an access controller at one site, which over the internet is controlling several thin APs at different sites. Quite an interesting fact. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, let's go through the configuration of this device. The easiest way I found to configure these is set them up to DHCP. Now normally I wouldn't advise using infrastructure on a dynamic address, because it makes it obviously difficult when you actually want to get in to configure the units, because you don't know what damn address it's on. But what this will do is, in this setup, you can actually set it up to DHCP, and with DHCP mode it takes its addresses from the access controller unit. So the access controller unit will actually act as a private DHCP server for the thin or slave access points. So we'll set this unit up, and we'll click on apply, and that's it. That's that one done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this video, and I'm going to go and connect the next one up, just so you how quick and easy it is to get this going. Okay, I've now just configured the second unit, and typed in the IP address, say 192.168.1.1, admin password. So this unit's come up. This is the second unit, and as I say, it will come up into thin AP mode by default. Device name, again, we can change that. All I'm going to do is make sure it's clicked on obtain address automatically. Unfortunately my browser's cached, so it's still got the same page. Let's see if I can refresh that. Anyway, so set that to automatically, click on apply, and that's that one done. And what I'm not going to do is put on the third device. Now the third device is, we're going to make the access controller, so the configuration of that will be slightly different, but you've just seen what's involved in actually configuring the thin APs. You tick one button, that's it. You just tick one button, click on apply, job's done. So now we'll just go and get the access controller unit out and show you what we can do with the actual units. Okay, Now just disconnected that the thin unit and put the third unit onto the network. So this is what we're going to do. This is going to configure as the access controller. So admin password, enter. So I say by default settings it's thin AP. Now I'm going to leave this one on the address 1.1 because this is going to be my controller unit, and I want to know what the address of the controller unit is. But what we're first going to do is configure it as access controller plus thin AP. So click on yes for that, and unfortunately we now have to wait for 3/4 of a minute for it to reboot back up again. Okay, last few seconds, and we're up. Log in. Okay, so now you notice that the screen has changed quite dramatically. Now we've got a lot more stuff on this screen now. So we can play around with wireless settings. So I'll just quickly go through the screen. So we've got a wireless settings. You notice it supports up to 16 different SSIDs, with obviously only the first one enabled by default. Each one can have an individual VLAN ID. So for all those people that want to play around with VLANs, there you have the functionality here. Personally, I can't stand the damn things because every time I play with them, everything seems to stop working. If we actually go to configuration of the first profile, we can alter the SSID, the description, broadcast, all the usual sort of garbage, and you've got all the usual stuff about here, playing around with security and that sort of thing. If we go down to wireless protocol, I'm just going to leave it as open network for the time being. But you see the settings there, you can play with them if you want. Now we've got country region. Now we've got United Kingdom here, but the only thing I would say is, yes, obviously you should set to United Kingdom by default, but what I've discovered is the manufacturers of this product, in their infinite wisdom, when you set it to United Kingdom, have limited the output power to the legal limit. Heaven forbid! Who wants to run an access point at a legal power limit? Anyway, that's what they've done. Now, the device by default has a 10 dB internal antenna. So if you actually set this to United Kingdom, you'll find the power drops right down to about 10 or 11 dBm as the output power maximum, which, alright, is okay if you just want to use the built-in antenna and you're just trying to cover a small area. But if you want to actually use the external antenna connector and use a different gain antenna, then you need to have more flexibility with that power control. For example, if you're putting on a length of leaky feeder cable, well, the thing about leaky feeder cable is you want as much RF power as possible, in which case you don't want to be restricted to 10 or 11 dBm. What you actually want to do is crank it right up to the maximum of this device, which is round about 24 to 26 dBm. But you haven't got access to those higher power settings if you leave it set to United Kingdom. The default is United States. Now when you've got it set to United States, you've got the full range of the power flexibility there, so you can actually go right up to 24, 26 dBm. Now I'm not saying that you should run it at 24, 26 dBm and then bang a 23 dBi external antenna on it, because obviously that is way, way, way too illegal. But if you're actually using the antenna gain sensibly, then this will allow you to actually manipulate and control the output power to match whatever antenna gain you're using. As I say, we're particularly interested in using it for leaky feeder cable, where you want as much RF power as possible. So just for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to leave it set to United States just to show you what the range of power settings are. You've got the normal 802 operating mode, so it's, now it says A, B, G and N. Actually this is universal firmware to suit 5 gig units and 2.4 gig units. The particular VAP unit here is only a 2.4, so although it says A, B, G, N, you can actually just ignore the A part. So what we're saying here is you can run it as a BG unit, standard 54 meg Wi-Fi, or you can go up to an N, in which case it operates up to a fictitious 150 meg 11N device. If we go through advanced settings, yeah, all this stuff that, yeah, I don't understand, blah blah blah. The only useful factor in here I can see is the space in meters, which is actually an indication factor for how far away the clients are. Now by default it's set to 1 kilometer. you are advised to set this to the distance to the furthest client. So if the furthest client is only 100 meters away, set it to 100. If the furthest client is 500 meters away, set it to 500. By actually setting this, what it will actually do is it will automatically control its timeouts to expect the particular time delays that are involved in reaching the client and getting the traffic back from the client. Everything else, yeah, well, whatever. I don't understand it, but I'm sure somebody out there does. Access control. This is obviously the usual thing, like MAC address restrictions and all that sort of thing. It's got built-in QoS, so you can actually do play around with traffic shaping and that sort of thing. Not something I've played around with, but it's there if you want to play around with the functions. Radius authentication if you use radius security for client access. And now we go to the management side. Now, the management side, the first thing it's showing is the APs that are connected to the network. Now, before I go any further with this, what I'll quickly show is we've only got one AP on, and the one AP is this AP. This is the access point controller AP. So this is showing itself on the list here. Now, what I'm going to do now is just put you on pause, and I'm going to run across and actually reconnect the other two thin APs that I configured earlier on. So I've just powered up those other two devices. They're busy booting up as we speak, and that's how quick that was. So they've now booted up, and you can see the devices are configured here, showing. Just refresh them a couple of times till they sort themselves out. Right, that's done. Now you can see that we've got the other two thin APs on here have both appeared. They've both appeared with address which has actually been given out by this unit, by this access controller unit here. They're still busy registering. Refresh it a few times. Right, one's actually registered now. Yep, now that's it. Now they're both registered. So both of the thin APs are now registered with this access controller, and you can see they're all listed here with the IP addresses. And things that we can do is, if we actually hover over each of the units, you can see that it's actually set up, what operating frequency it's set up on, and what antenna it's using, and its output power. Now all these obviously are set to American setting at the moment, so they're set to the maximum output power of 26 dBm. And just hovering above, you can see they're all set pretty much the same. And what we can do is, if we click on that and click on radio, so for each unit we can actually control the channel it uses. Now that's interesting because you could have multiple devices and they're all configured on different channels, but still controlled by the single access point client here, the single access controller, sorry. The other thing about it is they still appear, as far as the roaming client is concerned, as a single wireless network. An interesting aspect, but very useful, because if you're putting a density of these units in, what you don't want to do is have interference between the various units. So the fact that you can actually set individual units up which are close to each other on different channels so they don't interfere with each other is very, very useful. So you can set the channels. This actually sets the channel width, which all depends upon whether you're running in 11N or BG mode. By default it's on a standard 20 meg wide channel. And whether it uses the internal or the external antenna, and the output power. So we've got it in US mode at the moment, so that gives us the full range of the output power settings. If this was a UK mode, it would only show about, I think it's 11 dBm as the only power option. But as you can see, we can actually go to each unit and actually control its Wi-Fi settings yet again, so we can change all the Wi-Fi settings for each of the unit. What we can also do is we could actually upgrade the firmware of individual units, or we can upgrade the firmware of all the units. So other things that we can look at here is, we'll just go to system settings. So this is system settings of this particular access controller, and as you can see, this is the important thing here. This DHCP server needs to be ticked. What that's doing is it's actually dishing out IP addresses to the actual thin, that's the slave access points. TAP stands for thin access point. So that's just an address range. I suppose technically that actually shouldn't start till -2 because the access control itself is .1, but it seems to have sorted itself out, no problem at all. Other things on this screen is you've got time settings, standard NTP time settings, etc., etc. The ability to upload firmware, so you can upgrade firmware. There's two sets of firmware. There's actually the access controller firmware, and there's the thin AP firmware. So you can actually individually load files for there. You can save configuration files, so you can save the thin AP settings to a file, and you can save the access controller settings to a file. Yet again, very useful if you just want to update a load of thin access points. Usual password settings, syslog settings, blah blah blah, system lock, blah blah blah. So you can see, just go back to the management page, because obviously that's the important one. That's the thing that actually sets this unit apart. So what we can actually do is we could do things like, tell you what we could do. Actually, what we could do. Let's just play around with the wireless security. If I actually click on this button here, and what we'll do is we'll just do let's just do WPA2. We'll put some dummy controller, dummy security key in, and we click on save, and we click on OK. As it comes here, it says the tap configuration contains changes. So what we need to do is whether we want to apply those changes to all of the thin access points in one go. So we'll click on apply. So what that's going to do is it's now updating all of the thin access points. So imagine you've got 10 or a dozen of these thin access points all scattered around a large building, a school, college, a hotel, whatever. It's now going to automatically update the security on all those devices in one go. That's how quick and easy it is to actually use this range of units in an area like a school or a college or a hotel or an outdoor situation. So you might actually want to be covering an outdoor area, a courtyard or something like that. Yet again, you can use this and you can alter the configuration for all of the units in one go. Very, very useful piece of equipment, this. And to say the other good thing about it is all of these thin access points and the access controller all merge together to appear to the clients as if they are one single Wi-Fi network. That really improves things as far as the clients are concerned. Not only does it give you pseudo roaming, but it means they haven't got to worry about different settings as they move across from node to node. It's all set up, all controlled through here, and it all appears as a single Wi-Fi network to the clients. Very, very useful piece of management. The only other product I'm aware of that does this sort of thing is, well, I probably shouldn't say it because I don't want to record the name and get told off for patent or copyright or something like that. But there is one other make out there which starts with an M, which I'm aware of, which gives this sort of functionality. But we're talking about access points that sort of, they're £1,000 a pop or £500 trade. The thing about these is, they're a low-cost solution. And most people don't want to go around and putting £1,000 access points into a college or something like that. You've got a college and you put a dozen access points in, you have to fork out £1,000 an access point. It's 12 grand gone before you can say anything. The thing about these things is you could do that for 1/10 of the price, less than that. They're even cheaper than that. You can go around and you could do that for a fraction of the price, and it still gives you, as far as I can see, nearly all the same flexibility. I haven't played around with one of the £1,000 units, so I can't quite sure exactly what extra they give you. I'm sure they give you a bit more for your £1,000. But what these do is they still give you the central management that you need to actually control all your access points in one go, plus that ability whereby all the access points merge together to give the impression of a single access point, Wi-Fi access point, to the clients, which means that when it actually comes to access to clients, moving from one access point to an access point, moving around the network, hopping from one access point to another, it significantly improves that roaming process. I'm not going to call it full roaming, because I don't believe you can get full roaming without some intelligence being applied by the client, i.e. the client actually looking around and trying and deciding is there something better over there to be hopped to? But this does go a long way towards it. We've tried it in the office here with the access points scattered around the building, and I'll be perfectly frank, when we had the client walking around the building, we were actually streaming music over the client at the same time. I'll be perfectly frank, we couldn't tell when the client had hopped. The only way we could tell the client had hopped is when we went to the management. We could actually see the client actually denoted here. We could actually see a client actually shown here, and we could actually see the client moving around the access points. But that's the only way we could tell. We couldn't see any other way. So that's the, as you say, I probably gushed a bit too much. I got quite excited by these units because I think they're going to be so useful in a number of applications. So many times we get asked by customers for this sort of product, and this is it. Finally, we've got this sort of product. So this is the first product in this range. This is the outdoor 2.4. You can use it indoor. Nothing to stop you using it indoor. And one thing that we have considered, as I say, is put it on leaky feeder cable. And of course, you know how brilliant we think leaky feeder cable is. So you could put it on leaky feeder cable. The other thing you can do with it is you could actually configure it on a range of indoor antenna. So you could put it on the end of leaky feeder cable, literally just screw it straight into the end of leaky feeder cable. The other thing you can do with it is you could actually put it on a ceiling mount antenna. So if you've got suspended ceilings, you could actually put the device actually inside the suspended ceiling and actually put a ceiling mount antenna actually on the underside of the suspended ceiling. So the VAP units inside the suspended ceiling connected to the pigtail coming off the ceiling mount antenna, and the ceiling mount antenna is actually giving you broad angled coverage in the room underneath. You know, you could use leaky feeder cable, or you can use ceiling mount antennas to actually give you a coverage inside a building. I mean, imagine this is inside an outdoor storeroom or something like that. You know, we've got one here, you know, pallets piled high. You could actually put these devices actually outside in your pallet area. So for example, if you've got Wi-Fi aware forklift trucks, or you've got staff walking around with Wi-Fi enabled hand controllers, that sort of thing, logging equipment, yet again, these can cope with all of that. Fantastic piece of equipment. Anyway, I've waxed lyrical here. I don't know how long I've been here. Probably been here for about half an hour, waxing lyrical about this kit. So the product's in stock now. You've seen how dead easy it is to get it up and working. So all I can say is buy some.